Welcome back to the live company. Come on in and sit on down. Today we're going to be learning about tolerancing. What's tolerancing and why is it important for self-improvement? And I'll tell you why. It's so that I can do stuff like this to my Gundam and him still be okay. Let's get into it. Tolerancing is the limit of variation that machine parts need in order to have a successful rate of deployment when they're being released. So let's say that you're making a Gundam or something like this, a toy, right? Things need to be able to fit in with each other. If they don't fit in with each other, then they won't work, and then customers are going to be upset. But you can't have every single piece or every single product be exactly the same every single time, because that just raises costs and make things a little bit too expensive to create. So what do companies do? They understand that certain materials, certain things, they have a limit and a variation between what is acceptable and what is not. So they have this thing called GD&T, which is geometric dimension and tolerancing, I believe. It's a set of standards that makes it so that whenever a machine shop or somebody is creating a product or something that, is being manufactured, it has a limit of variability on what can be accepted or not. So let's say that this piece that's supposed to hold the head of my Gundam, it can be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, as long as it, holds the function of being able to hold my Gundam, turn and spin around and stuff like that, right? So this channel is all about applying engineering concepts to self-improvement. And I feel like tolerancing is a great example of this. When you think about tolerancing in a mechanical engineering space, it's something that is kind of boring, and it's something that not a lot of people actually care about doing because it takes time, it's a lot of effort, but it's really, really important because you can't set something to be exactly the same every time, and that's just the way that it is in life as well. So let's say that you have a calendar system that you've been using for a while, something that is really important to you and that you use every day to get to work on time, to get your tasks done, and just to, kind of go about your day normally, right? What happens when this calendar system fails? You have everything planned out, you have every second, every minute of your day kind of planned, but then something terrible happens where the train stops running or the weather makes it so that you can't start your car. What are you supposed to do then with your calendar? Now, most well-adjusted people would say, whatever, it was uncontrollable, you couldn't do anything about it. But there are some people who just absolutely freak out and lose their mind when things like this happen. They have a plan, they have something that they want to have happen, but then when it doesn't happen, they essentially shut down. Wow, that background is kind of crazy. That guy's welding over there. When you're tolerancing something, you usually have a minus and a plus. A minus is like the lesser amount that a part can be, and then a plus is the more amount that a part can be, right? So let's say that you have this pen cap over here, right? This pen cap can be a little bit bigger than this so that the tightness isn't like super tight, and it can be a little bit smaller so that the tightness is super tight, but it still like works at the end of the day. And you need to kind of take this concept and apply it to your life when it comes to scheduling and when it comes to just being a better person. Because listen, again, nothing is going to be perfect every single time you try it. Nothing's going to be perfect the first time you do it. And putting yourself on a track where you're always trying to succeed and you're always trying to be the best version of yourself without any sort of break or anything like that is going to lead to burnout, and it's going to lead to failure. And I know this because I personally used to do this to myself. I would set up my calendar to have every single thing packed out, and every single second, every single day, have some sort of thing going on in it. And I think that, honestly, it didn't really help me out that much because although I thought that I got more done throughout the day, I didn't really remember what happened throughout the day, or I didn't really take the time to kind of explore the possibility of like growing from the opportunities that I had, right? So I had a day where I had a ton of meetings. I went to a creator event summit. I did all these things. And then by the end of the day, it's like, wow, I'm so tired that like I can't even process what happened. I'm just going to go to sleep and, move on from there. And like, obviously I learned a lot, but if I had like more appropriately budgeted my time to actually like check out and figure out each and everything individually rather than packing it all into one day, I probably would have been more successful at the end of it. When you're tolerancing your life, when you're tolerancing your time, you have to have this sort of understanding. I think that most people want to think that they can put 5 minutes on the calendar and just get something done immediately, but you have to give yourself a little bit of grace here. You have to say to yourself, it's gonna maybe take me 5 minutes, but if it takes me 10, that's okay. And like, we're all still alive. We're all still here. Time may be ticking, things may be running out, but things do take time. And that if you don't get something right the first time, there'll always be another chance to try it. This comes to pretty much everything in life. I think that relationships, when you think about your success in academics and things like that, it's really hard to say to yourself like, oh, I'll be able to succeed even on a second try or something like that. But you can succeed on a second try. A lot of people turn their lives around after failing the first time. So have a little bit of tolerance for yourself. Allow yourself to maybe fail. Maybe be okay with trying something new and understanding that you're not going to be the best at it the first time you give it a shot. I believe that not enough people do this. It's kind of an epidemic how little we fail. It's hard for people to raise their hand in class thinking that they're going to get the question wrong. And especially in foreign countries like Japan and Asia and things like that, raising your hand and being wrong automatically gets you ostracized. And although it's not that bad in the US, I think it's still a little bit of a feeling that most people would get. It's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing to be the person that can't get the answer right. When it comes to your time, when it comes to improving, you need to give yourself a little bit of tolerance. You need to tell yourself that there's a criteria that I'm going to set for myself. I'm going to have to be reasonable about my level of success, right? I'm not going to put all my eggs into one basket, become a professional skateboarder and just abandon everything. But I'm also not going to, not try and not give it a shot, right? If you like something and you want to do something, go for it. And this kind of leads me into my next point. Tolerancing satisfaction in your life. Now, satisfaction is something that not a lot of people talk about because it's very personal, right? Most people would say that, oh, I hate my job, I'm miserable, it's the worst thing ever. I feel like that, at least most people would say that. But in reality, they probably aren't doing that bad if they do have a job, if they are working in a situation where, they can feed their family, they can support themselves. But it's there's also that craving and that want for more that every single human has. Humans have this insane ability to get to the level that they've always wanted to get to, and then be upset after they get to the level because they got there, right? It's as soon as you reach the ceiling, there's just another ceiling above you that you set for yourself. And that once you get to, it's okay, time to get to the next ceiling again. And it's really hard to not continuously try reaching for the next ceiling. Try reaching for that next goal, that next milestone, getting that next promotion, getting that next thing. And honestly, it's really not worth it. That's not how you're going to find satisfaction, because what most people really want is just the ability to control their own time and control what they do throughout the day. If that's the thing that most people actually want, if that's the thing that people think that they want, right? Or people forget that they want, I think that an exercise that people can do in order to see if they actually are tolerancing for satisfaction correctly, you need to have the ability to be okay with, some days not being that great. Some days are going to be really dreary. Some days you're going to say to yourself, man, I wish I could quit my job, or man, I wish that I could just abandon all of this and just run away to a foreign country, which maybe I do think about sometimes with Japan. But I'm smart enough to tolerance this feeling. I'm smart enough to have the ability to say to myself, life here can sometimes be a little bit annoying. You know what I mean? It's things aren't that great, or I'm not happy with the current level and the satisfaction that I have in my career. And I think that, going to a foreign country would make me feel better. I know that that's probably not the case. I know that going to a different place is not going to solve all my problems, and that the satisfaction of doing these things isn't exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for the ability to have some sort of freedom. You can give yourself that feeling through creating content, creating art, doing things that don't involve you completely shifting your entire life. And not enough people think about that. I think a lot of people make really big financial decisions just in the moment because they don't have the ability to tolerance their life properly. They don't have the ability to tolerance the idea that maybe some days are going to stink, and maybe some days you aren't going to do or be as happy as you want to be. But the fact that you're trying and you're growing and you're learning is enough. And that even though it may be, a little bit minus or a little bit plus, you are going to be okay at the end of the day. And that's hard to understand, because when you're in that feeling, when you're in that moment, it's not going to feel that way. But I'm here to tell you, you got to expect it. You got to have tolerance for these things. You got to account for things not being the same every single time you do them. Some days life is going to suck. Some days work is going to suck. Some days you're going to say to yourself, I wish that I could just run away and drop everything and go. And some people do that. And some people really pay the price for it. And what I'm trying to do is educate people to not pay the price for it. And this kind of leads me to my final point, which I think is the biggest way you can utilize tolerancing in your life. It's finances. What is financial tolerance? To me, that's the ability to spend money and not feel bad about it. As somebody who came from a family of immigrants, money was something that was really important to my family, right? Money was something that is literally like the lifeline of like, my grandfather, my father, like these things, like the work that they put in to get me to the level that I'm at is insanity. And they worked really hard to make a lot of money so that I could be here and have the privilege of talking to you guys. And it's like, I don't take that for granted. And I know that the things that I need to do in order to satisfy my need for financial satisfaction may be different from your need and from the rest of the world's needs. But that's okay because I have the tolerance and I have the ability to know that like some days I might have to work harder than everybody else. Some days I might have to sleep less because I have to get more content out, or I have to create something, or I have to do something that will make me get to my goal quicker. And you can't think of everything on this person does this, so I should do this basis. You should think about it on a personal basis, right? If you see somebody with an insane budget and they're super, super like tight to it, they count and track every single dollar and penny that they spend, right? That doesn't mean that that person is having a great life or is like actually like doing the best, right? They may be neurotic with the way that they save their money. Like you can say, oh wow, they save so much cash, they're doing so great. But it's like, no, maybe that person like doesn't want to spend money because of another reason. Like you don't know, and you can't really tell unless it's your own personal problem and your own personal situation. So I'm asking you to essentially just take what you have with your finances, take a little bit of a snapshot and a picture, and just kind of analyze where you're at right now. Are you satisfied? Yes or no? Me personally, no. So we'll work from there, right? I'm not satisfied with the current financial situation that I'm in. But does that mean that I'm in a terrible financial situation? No. It means that I'm just not satisfied. And that it's okay for me to be a little bit upset about that and me to want to do things in order to succeed. Everybody has the freedom to pursue happiness. That's what America is all about, and that's what life should be about for you. If you want to do something, if you want to achieve some sort of goal, you have to go out there and do it. If you don't, and if you set yourself up for either not taking action or taking really, really rash action, you might fail and you might be put in a situation where you won't be able to recover. So I ask that if you are going to be in this situation where you feel like you're not financially succeeding, you feel like, you spend too much money or maybe you budget too hard, to kind of tolerance in this mindset. Whatever I spend, whatever I do, it has to be in between these margins. And whenever I spend below or spend above happens, I have to have a conversation with myself that's honest, right? So I usually spend $1,000 per month. But this past month, I had to spend over like $2,500 on a renewal for my subscription to my jiu-jitsu classes, right? I love jiu-jitsu. I know that, I couldn't spend $1,000 for that month because my subscription to my jiu-jitsu classes are like $1,500. So it's like, I didn't get super angry at myself or frustrated at myself for not reaching and hitting my financial goals. I understand that jiu-jitsu is something that I am tolerancing for. I love that sport. I love doing it. I'm willing to pay and put that financial burden on myself because of how much I love it, right? You need to be able to say to yourself, this is going to be okay. And like whatever I do, whatever action occurs, that I am in the driver's seat. I'm not letting things happen to me. I am tolerancing and I'm aware of what is going to occur. I know that every single month, I'm not going to be able to probably hit my exact budgeting spend limit. Some months, I budget myself for $300 in groceries. I spend $350. Okay, the world's not over, but if I spend $500, if I spend $600, I remember on my birthday month, I bought a Wagyu steak for myself. That was kind of crazy. That month, I spent over, and I was like, you know what? It's okay because I knew that I was doing this. It wasn't something that I wasn't aware of. I toleranced for it properly. Tolerancing is super important. Tolerancing is a part of life, and it's something that engineers use, and it's something that you should kind of think about for self-improvement, right? Finances, your satisfaction, and just the way that you spend time should all be toleranced properly. Nothing is going to be the same every single time that you do it. And you need to be prepared to kind of analyze the life that you're having, the path that you're going down, and say to yourself, is this okay, or do I need to change something about it? Do I need to tighten this up, make it so that this doesn't have as much variation, or maybe, you know what, this can be a little bit more free. My budget can be a little bit more loose. I can spend a little bit more time thinking about how I can get the best coupon or the best deal on some sort of product, because guess what? The product matters to me, right? I'll give you an example. This camera, I spent so much time trying to find the perfect camera on eBay, researching, doing all this like work and trying to figure out what the camera is supposed to be, but For this teleprompter over here, I didn't really have to spend that much time because I knew that it might be a tool that I use maybe once or twice, but I didn't really need it that badly, so I just bought the first one I saw on Amazon. I tolerance my time. I tolerance my finances. I knew that if I spent below this, I'd be happy, and if I spent above something, I wouldn't be happy. So take that into account and use that as a framework maybe in the future to help you understand how you should tolerance your life to live a better one. This is Matt from Live Company. I hope you learned something, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please check out some of my other videos. I talked a little bit about engineering and problem solving in my last one. If you're interested, go check it out. All right, peace.